Welcome to episode 5 of our road trip through the American South that I got to do with my buddy Evan this past spring. If you missed the last video from Northern Alabama, feel free to go check that out first. Here, we make our way across the heart of Dixie for what might have been my most anticipated city I'd left to visit in the country, New Orleans, Louisiana. Why is this? Well, see, the culture of New Orleans is unique among and distinct from that of every other city in the United States, and you see that displayed in its architecture, people, food, music, the list goes on. Experiencing all of that for the first time was something that I will never forget. Additionally, it's one of the most environmentally significant major cities in America due to it being surrounded by the Louisiana marshlands. See, usually I don't highlight urban areas like this on Travel Dash, but we actually had the opportunity to partake in a swamp tour with Cajun Encounters. I honestly believe that you haven't fully experienced New Orleans until you've seen its surrounding wetlands. In my opinion, its geological and biological features are incredibly interesting, and it's hard to believe you can do something such as this so close by to a huge population center like New Orleans. But just how huge is it? The greater New Orleans metropolitan area has a population of around 1.2 million people, making it by far the largest city in the state of Louisiana and the 45th most populous in the United States. If you're like me and enjoy nerding out over Google Maps satellite, then I'd highly suggest checking out the outskirts of New Orleans, specifically those neighborhoods built up on peninsulas that jet out into the swamps south of the city center. Historically, what makes New Orleans so different from elsewhere in America is that it was founded by French colonists in 1718 and was once upon a time the territorial capital of French Louisiana. In 1803, it became a part of the United States in the Louisiana Purchase, but it obviously maintained and continues to maintain its Creole heritage to this day, a mixture of Native American, French, West African, and Spanish culture. We begin our day in New Orleans by checking out that aforementioned swamp tour with Cajun Encounters. Now, ideally, I would have preferred one that took us out into the Atchafalaya Basin, America's largest river swamp, which is about an hour and a half outside of downtown. It's actually far closer to Louisiana's second biggest city, Baton Rouge, but since we never ended up in south central Louisiana, it would have been pretty out of the way for us, a little too much to justify the drive when options closer to the city exist that appear to be reminiscent. The tour we went with can be found right along the border with Mississippi and lasts approximately 2 hours. It takes you through the Honey Island Swamp, considered by many to be one of the most pristine swampland habitats in the United States. It covers an area that is over 20 miles long and nearly 7 miles across, with roughly half of that territory being a federally protected wildlife refuge. Immediately, the first thing I took note of was that murky brown water, which was disgusting but really cool. It gets that color from organic compounds leached from decaying plant matter like leaves, bark, and roots, plus sediment from erosion, which makes it muddier. The trees were also incredibly intriguing to me due to the gray material hanging from them called Spanish moss. This is an air plant, meaning it doesn't have roots in the soil or draw nutrients from the tree it grows on. Instead, it gets its moisture and nutrients directly from the air and rain. Now, despite how cool this looks, it's often full of bugs, so don't touch it if ever given the chance. Speaking of fauna, an animal that everyone will be on the lookout for, not just on this swamp tour, but many others across the country, are alligators. While I'd seen these incredible reptiles before at Everglades National Park in Florida, it never gets old for me. I found gator sightings to be extremely frequent here. We probably saw more than a dozen if I had to take a guess, and of varying sizes too. And best of all, your guide will make sure that those on both sides of the boat will have the opportunity to get several up-close experiences with them, making this probably the best alligator viewing I've ever experienced. After seeing a bunch of swamp puppies, my next hope was to go deep into the trees for a more immersive perspective, and towards the end of the tour, that is exactly what we got. So all in all, this was everything I hoped it would be and more. I know this type of scenery isn't everyone's cup of tea, but as someone who lives in Southern California and sees things like this very rarely, I think it's totally awesome. I've done a lot of different airboat tours around the country now, mainly in the Everglades in Florida, and you kind of get the same overall experience as you would in a place like the Everglades. But I thought it was really enjoyable. We saw lots of wildlife, pretty adequate length. I think we were on there for about 2 hours.
Yeah, I mean, the overall beauty of it isn't really kind of the little part that we did, we kind of went through like the swamp and the forest. That was really cool. Felt like being on Jungle Cruise or something. It's definitely like kind of like that traditional Louisiana swamp experience, and so I definitely would recommend it if you're in the area.
Now it was time to head into the city for the first time, and to avoid the hassle of driving and especially parking in New Orleans, we vouched to Uber into town. We were dropped off in front of the St. Louis Cathedral, a majestic 18th century church situated in the historic French Quarter. We've officially made it inside New Orleans, Louisiana for our first ever visit. The history packed in here is unlike anything else you'll see in America. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, I can't wait to go check this out. It's been on my bucket list cities in America, so yeah, let's go see what New Orleans has to offer.
Jackson Square seemed to be a fun spot to hang out and take in the sights and sounds of the city. You don't see buildings like this elsewhere in the US. It is just so cool. And the more conventional pieces of architecture, especially those with balcony gardens, are astoundingly gorgeous. There's so many historic landmarks and famous homes in this area, you will have no problem spending at least a couple hours here. A short distance away is New Orleans' most iconic single street, Bourbon Street, known for its lively nightlife, live music, and display of bustling shops and restaurants. In our opinion, this was a little overrated during the day, but as we came back in the evening and the atmosphere improved, we definitely came around to Bourbon Street. More on that later. What we were able to get out of it though, the first time around, was a delicious beignet. This was on our to-do list while in New Orleans, and the ones we tried at Cafe Beignet were incredible. For those of you unfamiliar, this is a square piece of fried, sweet yeasted dough served warm and generously covered in powdered sugar. If I had to describe it to someone, I'd say it tastes like a combination donut and croissant. Man, that is steaming. How would you describe beignets for someone who's never maybe heard of them or tried them?
It's like a croissant. I don't know, it kind of also has like a cakey taste to it as well too.
I might even say this is better than I expected.
These pastries are a staple of Louisiana's culinary tradition, so you absolutely cannot miss them. Up next, we take a stroll along the Riverwalk, granting views of the Mississippi River and several prominent bridges, monuments, and statues, and most impressively, a giant steamboat. Though we weren't able to hop on board for a river cruise, which I'm sure would have been awesome, this was another spot that most certainly added to our day.
We're gearing up for dinner in not too long. So far, New Orleans is pretty cool. It doesn't change too much throughout the city, but what's here is absolutely gorgeous. There's really no city in America that even comes close to looking like this.
Yeah, it's definitely very unique. But like Mark mentioned, it's definitely like very similar after a while, but it's still really cool to see.
Now it was time for a dinner reservation we made at Zesty Creole, a casual eatery dishing up Southern comfort foods. We were rather hungry pulling up to Zesty Creole, and we had been looking forward to authentic Creole food all day, but I don't think either of those things factor into our decision that this might have been one of, if not the best meal we've ever had in the United States. No, we're not joking. It was like the most spectacularly seasoned food I've tasted. I couldn't believe it.
This is a chicken pasta. We've got the jambalaya, gumbo, fried green tomatoes. This is gonna kill us, I think.
It's so good.
We've been looking forward to this all day. No. Don't do that. It's so good. Oh my god, Evan, this is one of my favorite meals maybe ever. This is so unbelievable.
Don't get me wrong, I'd heard New Orleans was a killer food city, but I never could have been prepared for that dinner. I think about it more than any other I've had in my life. Come here if you go to New Orleans, or at least try jambalaya, gumbo, and Cajun pasta, please. Oh, and shout out to the restaurant location, as it's smack dab in downtown, and you get this interesting blend of towering skyscrapers and that classic New Orleans style architecture we've been talking about.
I was skeptical whether or not I even wanted to make this video to begin with, because typically on Travel Dash we focus on just nature-oriented stuff, not necessarily cities, but honestly just for having that experience live on YouTube and on this channel, I think that was worth it, because that's something I'll never forget.
Moving on, we head back onto Bourbon Street, and this is where we started to notice how much potential it had. I kept beginning to describe how much more lively it got within just a few hours. It was like night and day. And the number one reason as to why is all the blues and jazz music luring us into bars and restaurants. Here's a few of my favorite examples I captured on video.
Baby, I should forget you. Oh, I will do. I will. Let me come this morning.
Seeing all of this go down with our own eyes and the birthplace of jazz was magical. It's often considered that New Orleans is where this all comes from, so it's for that reason that tuning into these performances was personally the highlight of my day, and I'm sure Evan would agree too. To celebrate its music history, we wrapped up our time spent in the city at Louis Armstrong Park. This 31-acre park is already beautiful, but most of all, I found it to be worth visiting due to how it commemorates musicians such as Louis Armstrong, and all that they did to shape New Orleans music culture. Just like at the Riverwalk, I enjoyed all of the monuments and statues, and this made for a solid conclusion to New Orleans. What a place.
What a crazy experience it's been in New Orleans. I've had a fantastic time.
Yeah, definitely the jazz music and the food is probably the highlight. And I mean, and the architecture is really cool too. We walked around a lot of the streets, but one of my main problems is that a lot of the streets feel the same way. It definitely all kind of looks the same. I would compare this a lot to like Charleston, South Carolina, or Savannah, Georgia. But those cities have the same kind of similar architecture, but they're more well kept. And so it's still a really cool city, and the atmosphere definitely picks up in the afternoon. But
yeah, I think I like it a little bit more, but I have similar thoughts overall. Having never been to Savannah or Charleston, I don't exactly have a lot to compare this to. To me, this feels like something completely unlike I've experienced in America. Definitely earlier on, I was a little bit disappointed, I would say, and then the atmosphere started to build up a lot.
The atmosphere started to build up a lot. I mean, the food helped a lot too, because the food was unbelievable. Those beignets too were just so good.
Unfortunately, we're not really in a position where we can be here at night, but definitely in the afternoon, this got really, really fun. So I definitely enjoyed it then. So thank you all so much for watching. We'll see you in the next one. Peace out.